Welcome back, word nerds. Mike here with the Social Life of Language, making complex theory simple but never simplified. You think that sounds cool? Hit that subscribe button now. Today we're covering an article by Rusty Barrett called Language Ideology and Racial Inequality, the Competing Functions of Spanish in an Anglo-owned Mexican restaurant. So here we got an anthropologist working as a bartender in a white-owned Mexican restaurant. And we get to see all the racist behind-the-scenes action. I've worked at a restaurant before. It is this bad. So this is an entertaining article on the ever-so-popular concept mock Spanish. So we're gonna center that today. Now, mock Spanish includes phrases like, excuse me, where's the baño? No problemo, dude. Why is there caca on the floor? Sometimes these language practices used by white speakers reproduce racial hierarchies that literally mess with people's lives. Let's quickly get in some examples of mock Spanish.
Hey, Miguel. That's more than 3 ounces of cheese, my friend. We talked about this before. Less queso, more listen-o.
Now in that clip, no question about it, this is said in a way that mocks Spanish speakers. But it also indexes. Now remember, indexes is a sign that points to something, like our index finger, it points. In this particular scenario, it points to a hierarchy. It performs action on the context. Now it points to a lot of things. I'm your boss. I speak English well. I assume you don't because of your skin color, because of that mustache you got, because of the accent I perceive you to have, whether you have an accent or not. But on page 165, Barrett is saying, hey, let's look at what happens if we reframe mock Spanish as a form of linguistic appropriation. What pops out at us when we use this term? Perhaps we can think of appropriation as taking credit for something that's not yours, or maybe stealing something. But I think the common denominator here is the ability to exert power over the meaning of something. So we might immediately think of appropriating something like clothing, like stealing or taking credit for a style. Now, when something is appropriated, there is the potential that the meaning of something totally changes. Something was badass at one point, maybe not so much anymore. So let's watch this famous clip from Terminator that Barrett talks about on page 166. But let's think about framing this as linguistic appropriation. Let's watch.
Keep it under 65. We don't want to be pulled over.
Affirmative.
No. You gotta listen to the way people talk. You don't say affirmative or some shit like that. You say, no problemo.
No problemo.
Now remember, we gotta pay attention to how mock Spanish performs action in and on the context. So I want to pull your attention to a different part of this clip, because I think it's as important a phrase as the no problemo part. And it's when he says, you gotta listen to the way people talk. I'm kind of like, what people are you talking about? I think he might mainly just be talking about white people. So he's teaching the Terminator how to be cool and likable, because allegedly all people say things like no problemo. Here we got an example of the expansion of white public space, where this kind of Spanish is perceived as normal, as cool. But again, normal to who? So I think Barrett is onto something here with this idea of linguistic appropriation. Now, if you saw the first video that I made on mock Spanish, click here. I talked about the need to look at what effects mock Spanish has on context. But if I were to claim mock Spanish is materially harmful to people, I think that's a tough sell. It's hard to prove, right? What I think is kind of brilliant about this article is that Barrett moves us from this sort of abstract realm of racialization to also show us how mock Spanish, or what he also calls Anglo-Spanish, he shows us that this linguistic practice can have real material effects. It can get people fired. So we gotta remember, language performs action on context, and linguistic practice can be a vehicle of racial ideologies. Now Barrett tells us straight out, there is some vile racism coming from the white employees and the white managers. Some of the circulating stereotypes of this restaurant includes the idea that Spanish speakers, probably Mexican speakers, are sneaky and treacherous and dangerous.
I really don't want to work in a Mexican restaurant. Ugh.
Who does? Mexicans.
Hey, watch it, fuckers.
Also, that Spanish speakers / Mexicans are probably dumb and illiterate. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to talk.
I'm expecting a very important delivery at the house, so could you please call me if it arrives? I'll give you my cell number. 401-555-1125.
4
40.
440
No, I was just repeating the 4. 14.
1.
But also another strong one is that Mexicans are lazy. Let's look at page 185. Example 14. The manager says to the workers, "You have to finish todo eso porque I have other things to do. Todo eso, all this. Porque, because..." Imagine those are your instructions. Like, what are you supposed to... But then the next lines of dialogue are pretty disturbing too. So let me act out these next lines for you. I'm sure this is exactly the way it came out in real life. Pretty sure. Did you see that? He didn't finish what I told him to finish. I told him to do that. Boss, maybe he didn't understand what you said. You kind of just said all of it because... All of it because... That's what you actually said in Spanish. He's just lazy. So notice where the blame goes. Now on page 188, example 18, there's this notice that says, "Hay muchos cambios en schedule." Here we're talking about people's work schedules, right? Now I'm not sure if Barrett brought this up to the manager's attention, but you gotta wonder how that conversation might have gone. Boss, we're short kitchen staff. A couple of the kitchen staff didn't show up today. I don't know what I'm gonna do, Rusty. These people are lazy. These kitchen people are lazy. Actually, boss, the sign that you put up is kind of hard to understand. It says, "Hay muchos cambios en schedule." The most important word of your sign isn't translated. So, here. Lazy. Okay, so we got racial ideologies driving these events here. But Barrett throws us a really interesting curveball. So on page 190, we see that Anglo-Spanish is incorporated into the actual food ordering system. This food ordering system uses a particular shorthand like all restaurants do. So we might get an order with add egg, add an extra egg. It comes with 3, we put 4 this time. We're paying for an extra egg. Or let's say an order comes with refried beans, but the customer wants black beans. So we might get a ticket order like sub black beans, shorthand version, right? Well, the ordering system at Chalupa Town, it only uses the word con, C-O-N, which means with, for a lot of different instructions like add or substitute. So you might see con black beans. So let's say you get that same order where the person wants substituted black beans, but it says con black beans. Logically, that means with black beans, probably on the side, probably an extra charge. Probably someone's gonna get in trouble for making that mistake. Let's say you get the order omelet con egg. Literally, omelet with egg. No shit, omelets have eggs. But imagine the kinds of mistakes that this leads to. You got management who thinks Spanish speakers can't read, or they're stupid, or they're lazy, or they're sneaky and mischievous and just want to cause trouble for the restaurant. All of these different scenarios are directly linked to racial ideologies that are put into practice with the Anglo-Spanish, with the mock Spanish. This has the potential to prove all the stereotypes that management already believed about Mexicans and about Spanish speakers. So no doubt these managers might think, well, they work in these particular jobs because that's all they can do. Barely. Not to mention, think about the way people feel. Imagine going to work all anxious, hoping that you're not gonna mess up, hoping that you don't get fired, and taking all this verbal abuse from your racist managers. That is some depressing shit. Well, that's all for today, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit up that new Patreon account I just made. This is The Social Life of Language, and I will see you very soon.